My name is Bill Atkinson. I am editor-at-large for Citybiz and president of Atkinson Strategic Communications. Today, we're continuing the conversation with Think executives, and we're here with Jeff Musgrove and Joe Poling. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, what is your advice for companies looking to transform their businesses?
I think what we're seeing in the marketplace that is garnering a lot of attention is the fact that the world has fundamentally changed. COVID has driven transformation at a level that we have not seen and there is no precedent for. So what it's done is it's forced companies to change their business model almost overnight in a way that they probably never contemplated in terms of the pace it went. And what we're seeing is with that comes the need to ensure that the operating model of the business is matched with the new business model. So you have to ensure that the organization is set up to operate the new way the business is, and you've got to ensure that you have all the right pieces in place and that no new risks have been introduced. So there is a new normal. I think we're all agreeing that things are not going to be the way they were, which is going to force adapting and transformation. The other piece I would say, advice is there is a increase coming out of this. There will be an increase, and there already has been an increase in client expectations. And what that does is forces companies to truly understand the client journey. And what customers are looking for is someone who is going to meet them from a service standpoint where they are, when they want it, and be able to provide multiple experiences within them.
What do you think, Joe?
Absolutely, and don't go it alone, right? There are people, there are companies, there are organizations that are doing this that have done it successfully before 2020, before COVID. Companies have transformed and made strategic pivots throughout time. Now there's a little more dramatic transformation that needs to take place. And rather than fight it, we need to embrace it. We're not hiring the same way we did. We're not interviewing the same way we did. When people wake up in the morning, they don't know how to come to work. The way they've done it for 15 straight years prior to. So it's embracing that change. It's getting the culture to accept it, and it's applying the experience to your business to make sure that those changes are effective over time.
And it's interesting for us, Bill, because we're actually going through it at Think at the exact same time we're working with our clients. So, there's that corny line, right? We've been in your shoes. What's interesting is we actually have been and are currently in those shoes. So we really have an opportunity to take what we're doing internally and make us better in terms of how we're operating with our clients and how we're helping them think about transformation.
Yeah. So you're eating your own cooking.
Yeah.
Taking your
Absolutely.
own advice. Yeah. What about does this? We have the pandemic. We're in the throes of it. How much pressure does this put on businesses to change? Is it if you don't change you die, or what happens?
I think from my perspective, I'd say yes. I would argue that I like to use the phrase "the next normal." Right? We're not going to go backwards. There's going to be the next normal, and what I'm getting at is the next normal may not even be the final new normal. It could be a series of next normals, and what I'm getting at behind the scenes is that requires more than anything else. I think agility, and it's going to be those companies that are able to transform in an agile way, constantly keeping a focus on the operations that support it and the customer journey and expectations that are going to be successful. And I think those that are not are going to be in trouble in this new world because, as I mentioned earlier, the expectations and the pressure on efficiencies enabled to run a successful business have increased in a way we haven't seen. And the last thing I'll say, and I want Joe to comment too, is this is also going to be reflected in talent. The world has also changed in terms of retention of and recruiting of talent in a new world. So those companies that aren't able to adapt to a more remote workforce while still being able to capture culture, that also is a path to extinction.
It is. It's adapt or fall behind. And while the pandemic has been tragic in some aspects, it's also opened the doors, right? Our footprint, Think's footprint has grown. The ability to drive talent and to get talent on board has expanded with this change in culture. It has also given the ability for organizations to do the same thing if they embrace it, if they understand how to do it effectively.
You just acquired Ventru. What's next for Think?
What's next for Think? Well, it's very exciting times right now. I think that the investor market is very competitive. Everyone's looking for that edge. I think the talent, the experience that Think brings to the table are going to enable those organizations that use us as a trusted partner to reduce their risk and increase their ROI with every investment they make. Not just consistently, but will allow them to expand beyond the marketplaces that they're in. Let them focus on financials, let them focus on their forte, and let us come in and supplement and help them evaluate those companies and grow their business and their revenue.
Yeah, and I think when you think of the future of Think, I think this also sets us up just again like how we advise the companies, right? The path to growth is always going to be a combination of organic and inorganic growth. So I think when you think about the future of Think, it's building upon what we already have and growing in an organic way. But I always think, and I know Tony thinks this way too, is you're always thinking about expanding into adjacencies in a very logical way through acquisitions or deep partnerships or joint ventures. There's any number of ways to do this. But I think what you're always trying to do is balance that organic and inorganic growth as part of your overall strategy.
The venture deal gets you into PE and venture. How does this align with the vision for Think? How does it align with your, as Tony likes to call it, the North Star?
I think first, in my mind, first and foremost, it gives us, as we talked a little bit about, it gives us the opportunity to really build upon the strength of things. So when I think of the North Star and the vision is really for Think to be a national organization, right, that is built upon a very strong executive team of advisors, along with a very strong operational component. So we've really become a partner from strategy to execution. And I think the ability to create this shared services model with private equity and venture capital is going to accelerate the growth of Think and accelerate the Think story on a national level.
Absolutely.
The lessons along, you both have been in business for a number of years. So you've learned a few things. What's the biggest lesson that you have learned along the way?
I was touching my gray hair as you were asking that question. I know from my side, if I tried to actually really fully answer this question, we'd be 2 hours into this. But I would say really for me, there's a couple big things, which is culture matters. When you're building an organization, the larger you get, the more challenging it is to maintain the culture and have the right level of talent and stick to your vision and who you are, right? Because there's always the pressure to grow. And that I think that leads into my second piece, which is when you look at life, it really is a situation where it becomes quality over quantity. And I think the other big lesson I've learned is you can't be everything to everybody. So I think what we are doing a good job here is really defining who we are, articulating a clear value proposition, and we're going to do the right things the right way instead of doing a lot of things in a good way.
I would agree. Don't underestimate culture. I think there's an operational maturity component to every transformation that can't be overlooked. No matter how well the plan is written, no matter how bright the North Star is, if people don't buy it, people don't understand it, and people don't know how to get there, you're not going to be successful.
And so that's what culture does. That culture is the foundation for everything you're building a company on?
Yeah, I think it's based on a culture and a shared vision, right? I mean, the other thing a good culture does is ensure that every associate is very clear on the vision of the company, the strategy of the company, how that company is helping make the world a better place, right? And how each of those associates plays a role in it. So I think, culture without it is always going to be the challenge. I think you can try to grow, but if you're not grounded in a strong culture with a group of people who are committed to it and are approaching this as if it is their business, I think that shows both internally, and I think our clients see that as well.
How many companies that you work with have a defined culture?
That's a great question. I mean, I think, again, I would think that this is a little bit of a quality issue. I think any company would tell you that they have a culture. I think a lot of companies had a culture at one point in time. I'm not convinced as many have kept it. And I think a lot of it is just like when we're working with our clients, I mean, it is really about people, process, and technology as you're building anything. And then I keep going back to that. People are a huge part of this. So listen, I think companies struggled with it in good times. I think companies are going to struggle with it even more in the new next normal, because the more remote you are, the more challenging it is to build and maintain a culture, especially as you're onboarding new associates. So, if I were the CEO of a company, or certainly when I'm advising companies, I'm talking about culture, because again, as you mentioned earlier, Bill, what companies are going to survive, what companies are not going to survive. I actually think culture is going to play a huge role in that. So this is the time for companies to re-examine that.
Well, yeah. What do you think, Joe?
Companies need to utilize new tools. They need to take advantage of the situation. Those that do will excel. Those that don't will fall behind. I think that when we talk about process, it's not just a Visio, it's not just a document. It's a way of doing business. And I think getting the people to buy into how that's done, getting people trained, communicating properly, effectively, using technology to supplement the remote aspect of where we are now is a huge component on being successful or not.
Yeah. All right, last question for you guys. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right. What does Think look like in 3 years?
I'm going to let Joe take that.
You're going to let me take that one? A national organization that has changed the way consulting is looked at, a trusted partner in the industry that has helped hundreds of companies achieve effective transformation, as well as managing through day-to-day challenges effectively. We want to leave the world a better place, and I think day by day, client by client, we do that.
All right, Jeff, you have anything to add there?
No, I think Joe said it really well. I think when I think of Think in 3 years, it's a much bigger, much stronger organization that is a national presence, and we have a strong reputation for helping companies grow strategically and tactically through all of our offerings.
Yeah. So the message is buckle up, baby, because here comes Think, right?
We will grow based off the success of our clients growing, and we're looking forward to partnering on that.
Okay, great. You have an awesome team, incredible team. It's fun to see Think grow, a lot of momentum. I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.